After attending 3 back-to-back emergency summits in Brussels and Belgium, US President Biden has landed in Poland to get a first-hand look at efforts to help refugees fleeing the war-torn country. Biden has arrived in Rzeszów, which is hardly 160 kilometers away from the Ukraine border. After landing, US President met with soldiers from the US Army's 82nd Airborne Division. Soldiers have been stationed there as part of NATO's protection of the alliance's eastern flank. He spoke to soldiers and said, "You are in the midst of a fight between democracies and oligarchs." As the war enters day 31, Moscow continues to bomb key Ukrainian cities, including Kharkiv and Kyiv.
I spent a lot of time in Ukraine when I was a senator and vice president. I've spoken to the Rada in the days when they, in fact, didn't have what you'd call democracy, and was there in the Maidan when the former leader had to take off and head into Russia. And so, you know, with the Ukrainian people have a lot of backbone. They have a lot of guts, and I'm sure you're observing it.
Talking about 31 days of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the manner in which Kyiv is holding up, where the bombing essentially continues at residential areas, theaters, schools, colleges. Not just that, Russia has been relentless in its pursuit of taking over the strategic port city of Mariupol as well. We'll be going across to India Today's Rajesh Pawar for more on that, who has been getting us details from the capital city of Kyiv. Rajesh is through with us right now. Rajesh, first up, an up-to-date situation about the relentless pursuit of Russia, if I may, as far as the strategic city, port city of Mariupol is concerned, and also the manner in which Kyiv has been holding up. Talk to us a little about that as well.
Look, Russia has announced the end of its first phase of military operations, and it was evident, as I had reported 3 days back, there has been complete halt in Russian activities on ground around Kyiv, though there was some bombardment going on the outskirts by artillery and by some rocket fire, which was there. But besides this, there was a complete halt to the military activities on ground from Russian sides. They were building up defenses around the city, around perimeter of Kyiv city, so that they can put a siege around the city. Besides this, only military activity which has been reported in last 24 hours has been in Donbas area, in Donetsk and Lugansk province, where it is believed that Russian forces have made some progress by a few kilometers inside Ukrainian territory. There have been also reports that Russians have lost total control of Kherson city. Remember, Kherson was a city which Russians first took over, the first city in Ukraine. And the Pentagon has reported that yesterday they have lost the complete control of the city. It means some counterattack by Ukrainian forces, and they have taken control of some part of Kherson city. Besides this, the military activities on ground are more or less zero, as Russia says that they have finished the first phase of their operation, and now their focus has shifted to surveillance, especially on the western border of Ukraine with NATO countries, from where they're expecting large consignments of military hardware coming into Ukraine. Over to you.
You know, Rajesh, I also want to ask you about the crucial visit of US President Joe Biden to Poland and the manner in which Russia is looking at these developments. 31 days on, finally we have the US President's intervention, even if I can call it intervention, given that there is a lot of talk about military support being on top of the agenda, but we don't know what really is going to materialize.
Look, as far as President Joe Biden's visit to Europe was concerned, there were two main issues. One, he wanted to address all the NATO nations, show some kind of solidarity that they are all one, they are together, because fissures were emerging between various NATO countries about supplying more equipment to Ukraine and about other security issues. Secondly, countries like Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, they were showing concerns about Russian military presence in Ukraine, and they were feeling threatened. So the security posture of NATO in Europe, they say they have changed it from deterrence posture now to a defensive posture. They have beefed up all the anti-aircraft systems all along Ukrainian border, Belarusian border, and along the Russian border. Also, there have been increase in the number of troops over there, boots on ground. They say 4 new battle groups have been created and now will be stationed in Slovakia, Hungary, and Poland. Over to you.
All right. You know, Rajesh, to tell us a little about the situation on the ground vis-a-vis the number of people who've left Ukraine. Also, I did come across some reports that seem to be suggesting that in Kyiv, for example, some people are trying to return to normalcy. There have been restaurants that have started to serve meals. Just to tell us, what do you really see around you? I mean, for an outsider, for somebody who's not been there in Kyiv, I would really want to know what's happening as far as the people are concerned. Are they trying to go about their lives? What does it look like to you?
If you can see, look around. I'm trying to show around how things are. There's an old man taking a walk. Only one man in the whole street and the area around me. Yes, you're right. Some cafes have opened up, like not too many, 2-3 of them. Some pizzerias have opened up and you can go now have a pizza if you want to go out. Also, the taxis are running. Taxis, you can get a taxi more easily now. It looks like life is coming back to normal. It's quite strange that the whole city is besieged by Russian troops from all directions. But because also that there is the number of air attacks, the missile attacks on the city have reduced, and it looks like whoever are left behind are leading a more normal life than it was a week back. Over to you.
All right, Rajesh, thanks for getting us up to speed with those developments. Rajesh Pawar getting us a situation report from the capital city of Kyiv. Well, hours after President Putin put his nuclear forces on the state of alert, several Russian submarines capable of carrying 16 ballistic missiles sailed into the North Atlantic. Tracked by Western militaries, the decision to send the submarines closer to European shores was seen by the British Navy chiefs as posturing and a warning rather than an actual threat. They returned towards Russia shortly after, and normal levels of activity resumed. Since then, Western intelligence agencies have kept a closer eye on Kremlin's nuclear arsenal, while Russia's use of strategic nuclear weapons of the sort carried by the submarines is still being viewed by most observers as unthinkable. Some analysts envisage a scenario in which shorter-range, lower-yield tactical nuclear. This is not the first time that Putin has hinted at using nuclear power. After the Russian troops invaded Ukraine, Putin on the 20th of February had said that Russia's nuclear forces are on high alert. Russian troops had also attacked premises of Zaporizhia, and also attempts are made to capture Chernobyl power plant. Well, as Ukraine continues to stand tall and strong in spite of being bloodied and battered, Russian President Vladimir Putin has switched to a new plan. Russia now vows to liberate Donbas as its defense military is set. The first phase of Ukraine operation was successful. This comes days after Russia had set up a no-fly zone over Ukraine's Donbas. Russians even claim atrocities by Ukrainian government and forces in the region. Earlier this month, Putin had even said it had been a difficult decision to invade Ukraine. The people of Donbas were not stray dogs. Remember, Donbas is crucial as Russia-backed separatists now control 93% of Ukraine's Luhansk and 54% of Donetsk, which make up Donbas.
On-border train from Moscow to the border town of Rostov. Snow over here melting in the regions outside of Moscow. It is cold, but it is not very cold. The trains over here very comfortable, warm. But what we are going to show you is not just life in cities, but also life in the border towns. They look very different if you see not the kind of structure, the high-rise buildings that you see in Moscow. The flora, fauna, and the structure of the entire town is going to look very different when we reach the border towns. Although, yes, very European in their way of life, in the way they live. We will show you that, but again, there are reports of supply shortages in border towns. Let's go there and see whether that's the case or not. And also tensions. Tensions are high in the border towns between Ukraine and Russia. On the Russian side, there are a lot of people who have families across the border. Also, Ukrainians on the Ukraine side, there are a lot of Russians or people of Russian origin. Many even hold Russian passports. They have families across on this side. So we will speak to them and ask them how they feel about this entire conflict that's ongoing. It has taken a toll not just on the lives of people in Ukraine, but also on how Russia and Ukraine are going to look at each other the familial ties, the historical ties between each other, and the relationship that people have, the people-to-people connect. So we'll report all about that, but for now, it's a long journey to Rostov, which is a border town, and from there to really the border between Russia and Ukraine, which is the Donbas region of Ukraine. So we'll report from there as well. With video journalist Satya Rautre on border train from Moscow to Rostov. Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Amid the raging war, several universities have separate guidelines for students studying in border regions of Ukraine, including some universities in Kyiv. My colleague Geeta Mohan was in conversation with Indian students in the border town of Rostov. Listen in.
While there were advisories, there were many universities that were not offering online classes, and that was another issue that the embassy in Ukraine was dealing with in the border towns of Kyiv and so on. But over here, Russia has already said, the border town universities have already said that if you want to go back, if you think that there's a security risk, please leave. You can avail the online class facility. But अनुज, यहाँ पर आप थर्ड ईयर स्टूडेंट हैं, काफ़ी समय से यहाँ पर है. जनरली क्या सेंस है आपके दोस्तों में जो रशियंस हैं इस माहौल को लेकर?
इधर कुछ ऐसा है नहीं, अब तो सब कुछ नॉर्मल ही है इधर, और रशियन वो भी सब नॉर्मल ही रहेगा इधर. दोस्तों बॉर्डर से काफ़ी दूर है, उससे पहले भी काफ़ी सिटी हैं जो बॉर्डर से दूर है, अगर कोई दिक्कत होगी तो पहले.
Manjush, do you guys talk about the war situation and all? Do you guys talk about it with your friends?
Yes.
What's the sense?
Just we are talking about in Russia we don't get any news about war, but our parents daily calling 2 to 3 times that tell us of war situation. We are seeing news and
So you can't see news and get information, or your parents have more information from you?
I think our parents have more information. We don't have any information. When our parents call us, then we know real situation.
Okay, but you're just 75 kilometers from the border. Is that
Leaving you with
something
these
that you
visuals for the
on
moment.
a daily basis?
But I think in Russia everything is normal, so we don't care.
Okay, so they feel quite safe and secure, but the Russian authorities have given them the option, and parents certainly are worried lot in India because they have experienced what happened to Indian students in Ukraine, and that's why they continuously call the students and ask them for updates, taking updates themselves and ensuring that should there be any problem, they will be flown out immediately. In Rostov, with video journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today.